Hi students, and welcome to week 4 of LS 102, in which we take a brief look at metadata and a somewhat longer exploration of what controlled vocabulary is. Your bad key text covers metadata, so we won't dwell on it in much detail here. The easiest way to define metadata is that it's a piece of information describing a resource. If you've ever heard of it before, perhaps you've heard of it described as data about data or information about information. In library land, and for you as undergraduate researchers, it's mostly useful to help us perform different types of searches in databases, because it refers back to database records containing fields, and those fields contain information describing whatever the database record is about, also known as metadata. Look, for example, at this screenshot about this CD-ROM, which is owned by Sims Library. The title field metadata tells us that it's titled Children in Television, 50 Years of Research. The publication metadata, or field, tells us who published it and where it was published. The author field, or metadata, describes who created the CD-ROM, and so on. This screenshot of a journal article from the EBSCO database called Academic Search Complete tells us the title, Television Food Advertising to Children, A Global Perspective, the authors, the type of document it is, and other key pieces of information that describe what this resource, a journal article, is about. I said we'd be brief on metadata, so let's move on now to controlled vocabulary. As you know earlier, discussed in the previous weeks, you can search by keyword searching, and keyword searching is a good way to go because it uses natural language. So most databases allow you to search by keyword. Those are words that you choose which seem right for your topic, and that's illustrated by the box on the right. We could say cat, we could say feline, tabby, kitten, kitty, animal, all depending on what type of database we're in, what type of information about cats we're looking for. But we can also search by subject, and that's using controlled vocabulary, which is a standardized labeling system that changes from database to database. The screenshot on the right is a record from ERIC, which is the acronym for Education Resources Information Center. And this particular information deals mostly with education topics or related education topics. One of the best ways to search in ERIC is to use its thesaurus, which offers you education types of synonyms to search by. So our search or descriptor was really critical thinking. That's what I was looking for. Something that we should all be familiar with from week 1, critical thinking. And you can see that this record describes it. If you look kind of in the middle, it says a broader way to describe it is cognitive process. A narrower way to describe it is evaluative thinking. Now, as you know, I had earlier described critical thinking as evaluative thinking, and I tend to think of that as maybe almost really being synonymous with critical thinking. But not everybody always agrees on these sorts of things. According to ERIC, related terms that are a little more equivalent to what critical thinking is supposed to be about, would be, believe it or not, citizenship education, consciousness raising, convergent thinking, critical pedagogy, critical theory, problem solving, productive thinking, reflection, thinking skills, media literacy, problem-based learning, all of these different things. Controlled vocabulary is a limited set of authorized terms, also known as preferred terms, to be used in indexing or classifying documents in an information system. They may also be used in searching for documents in an information system, also known as a database. You'll hear me throw things around and switch off and say also known as a lot in LS 102, so just get used to it. You'll catch on. Databases with controlled vocabulary use very specific terms for concepts when searching by subject. What is a subject? Well, it's pretty much what you thought it is. A subject is what a thing is about. Controlled vocabulary continued. Well, we said earlier that a subject is what a thing is about? Well, databases often provide a subject list, which is their controlled vocabulary and can be useful to focus your search for relevancy because subjects are what a thing is about. Relevancy, subjects, they're kind of along the same lines, don't you think? To retrieve relevant information, it's useful for the user to be aware of this special terminology. Subject heading and descriptor are other terms used to refer to controlled vocabulary. In fact, specialized terms or alternate terms like subject heading and descriptor, if you think about it, are controlled vocabulary for controlled vocabulary. Here's a very nice everyday example of controlled vocabulary. Believe it or not, you've encountered controlled vocabulary before if you've ever felt the frustration of digging around in a print copy of the Yellow Pages trying to look for a particular service or business because what you call this service or business is in the Yellow Pages, but yet the Yellow Pages calls it something else and it takes a while to find it. So in natural language terms, you might say, my car is broken, I need to find car repair or an auto mechanic, but the Yellow Pages has deigned it automobile repair and service. Or let's say you don't like the prices at Lowe's or Home Depot, so you're looking for other places where you can get building supplies or construction supplies. Yellow Pages describes it as building materials. You say lawyer, they say attorney. You say doctor, meaning medical doctor, they say physician. Potato, potato. There you have it. Controlled vocabulary in your everyday life. This slide lists some examples of databases and their unique controlled vocabulary. So, Sims Library, which we hope you'll be using a lot while you're here at Southeastern, is an academic library, and academic libraries almost 100% across the board, with perhaps maybe a very few exceptions, use Library of Congress subject headings. As we saw earlier, ERIC, the database, otherwise known as Education Resources Information Center, but let's face it, it's just easier to say ERIC, it has a thesaurus of its own descriptors to describe education topics. The National Library of Medicine uses medical subject headings. The acronym is MESH for medical subject headings. And you might say heart attack, and those folks will probably say myocardial infarction. And that's just but one of many examples of controlled vocabulary. This slide offers us a look at the controlled vocabulary of a book owned by Sims Library. The book title is So Each May Learn, Integrating Learning Styles and Multiple Intelligences. The area of the screenshot, which is boxed, is showing you the controlled vocabulary of the Library of Congress. And of course, that again is the preferred controlled vocabulary used in academic libraries, such as ours here at Southeastern. Remember earlier I said that subject heading is another way of saying controlled vocabulary. Well, here it is. Instead, though, they say subject term. So, again, similar things. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as subject heading, subject term. The book has been subject classified as learning, psychology of, or multiple intelligences, as well as cognitive styles. All of these describe the contents of the book according to the folks at the Library of Congress who created this catalog record. Here I decided to find what the subject terms were for multiple intelligences in Academic Search Complete, one of the databases that we will use for journal and magazine and newspaper searches. So when you initially open up the initial search screen for Academic Search Complete, at the very top you'll see keyword, publications, subject terms, cited references, etc. That's a pretty much persistent navigation bar. So for Academic Search Complete, if I wanted to find out what other terms I might use if I'm doing a multiple intelligences search, I could click on subject terms, which I did, that's why it's boxed, and that brought me to this screen right here. And if you look at the second red box, inside the search field I have typed multiple intelligences, then I would just click the browse button, And then ultimately, though, what the screenshot is the result of having done that multiple intelligences search in the subject terms of Academic Search Complete. And if you look at the bottom area, it provides us with a quick description or scope note of what it is. And then below that, you'll see broader terms, narrower terms, related terms. And so multiple intelligences means multiple ways of learning and multiple styles of learning too. So more broadly, Intellect could possibly find items about multiple intelligences, but it's a much broader search. It's kind of overarching over all of this. And then below that, if you will, is multiple intelligences. And then even below that is emotional intelligence. And you can see that emotional intelligence here has been listed as a narrower term. And that's because it's but one form of multiple intelligences. Also, you can see related to this is cognitive styles, because they consider cognitive styles almost synonymous as a way to describe multiple intelligences, because multiple intelligences means multiple different cognitive styles. So, as you can see, these are all possible ways to search to find records broadly related to multiple intelligences, narrowly related to multiple intelligences, and just almost synonymous even with multiple intelligences. So, in a nutshell, controlled vocabulary is a means of controlling or standardizing the many variations in terminology to provide consistency in searching and classifying information. So let's apply what we know to show a quick way to do subject searching. Well, earlier we said that a subject is what a thing is about. So when you do subject searching, it's a more focused search because it's looking for your terms in those database fields that attempt to describe what a thing is about in the subject fields. But the subject terms or controlled vocabulary changes from database to database, as we've just established. That's true. So start with a keyword search, and then redirect your search by switching to the subject terms offered in the database record results that are generated by your initial keyword search. There are hundreds of thousands of subject terms and headings in the Library of Congress. There's no need to memorize them. I'm a librarian, and I know that I certainly have not memorized them. I often do start with a keyword search, and then I work from there. I open up records that result from that keyword search, records that look like what I'm searching for, and then I go into the records. I click on the linked subjects offered in the records because I know that those subject links are likely to focus my search or redirect my search in a way that's possibly more relevant than just a keyword search, because a subject is what a thing is about, isn't it? So here we have an example using that same one earlier. So each may learn, integrating learning styles and multiple intelligences. The red boxed area shows our subject terms. We could just click on those links right there. Learning psychology of, multiple intelligences, or cognitive styles. Any of these links will serve to provide us with records that are probably fairly closely related, somewhat relevant to information about multiple intelligences. This table describes the advantages and disadvantages to both keyword and subject searching. It compares both of these types of database searching. So take a look at it. It's brief and it's helpful. I'll talk to you later.